welcome into the Starcast Remarks Studios. This is Ryan, and this is Starcast Remarks, the official Dallas Stars podcast of the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the AGR for game number 26 against the St. Louis Blues. Stars lose tonight by a final score of 4-1. Lots of storylines coming out of this game tonight. But before we talk about that, we'd like to talk about DraftKings. Please make sure that you go and use the promo code THPN next time you go and use their app for a special little offer from them. And new users get something special as well if you go and use that promo code. So please go and use that. Without further ado, we're going to bring James and Christian in. Guys, how's it going? Kind of a rough night, right?
Yeah, 7 wins, straight to 4 losses. Sucks.
So lots of storylines coming out of tonight's game, but obviously the big one before the game even starts was the fact that Ben Bishop spoke to the media for the first home game since he announced that his career is basically over. He's not retiring because he's going to be on LTIR for the rest of his contract, but I mean, for lack of a better term, he's retired. He will not be playing another NHL game. How did y'all feel about Ben Bishop's tenure in the NHL with the Dallas Stars, or just in general with whoever?
Well, his press conference was like the saddest thing I've seen since the Madonna game. So that was gut-wrenching. But yeah, I mean, what else can you say that he hasn't already said himself, pretty much? He was Vezina finalist 2 years. It was pretty
3
much
times.
unanimous that he, well, with the Stars, I meant.
Oh, with the Stars, yes.
It was pretty much, everyone agreed pretty much that the second time he was snubbed and he should have been the Vezina winner. So he just had a great career, and if he had stayed longer, he would have won a cup somewhere. It just sucks that he doesn't have any more time.
And it just goes to show that sometimes you never know when you're going to play your last game in the NHL. And unfortunately for Ben Bishop, that was a really rough game in the bubble playoffs in 2020 against the Calgary Flames. And it was not a good game for him in that particular facet. But unfortunately, his career ends with 11 seasons. And, I mean, it was a good career. Some people are saying that he has an opportunity to make it into the Hall of Fame. What do y'all think about that? Is there any opportunity for him to make the Hall of Fame?
I mean, he's going to be close. He's going to be a bubble guy, I think. But he didn't he didn't win a Stanley Cup, which is his biggest flaw, and he didn't win a Vezina. So it's tough to say he should be in there when he didn't do either of those things. But who knows? His overall stats are fantastic. He's in the top 10 in a lot of that stuff. So that's where the argument comes from. But I don't think so.
I'm just not so sure either. I just don't think he played long enough. I think that's one of the things you have to look into when you're looking at Hall of Famers is longevity. And even though, Ben Bishop is 35 years old now, he only played for 11 seasons, and most of it wasn't even full seasons because he was very injury prone. Back this season, and then the season over here, there's a knee injury, and a rib injury over here, or whatever. He just seemed to continually be hurt, and unfortunately for him, his career is over. But we do look forward to seeing him within the organization. I think he could probably get some sort of role in the organization, maybe like the goaltending coach for the Texas Stars, or maybe like a player development coach, kind of like how Rich Peverly did after his whole incident and basically dying on the ice and then getting revived and then being asked to be put back in the game. So I mean, is there anything like that you could see him doing?
Well, yeah, definitely. He's going to do something like that. It's just whatever he decides that he wants.
So let's go, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this game. Obviously, with that over our heads more than anything before the game started. This game sucked. I don't think there's another way to put it. The other losses on the road trip, the Vegas game sucked just because we were up by 2 goals. Los Angeles game, I can understand. It was a back-to-back, and we were tired, and we didn't play very well. And then the San Jose game, I was It was really bad. But
It sucked.
today we basically got our butts kicked, and I mean literally and figuratively. I put on Twitter that the word of the night is physical. Talk about the physicality in this game tonight.
Yeah, well, they beat up everybody on our team pretty much. I mean, we threw the body around a little bit. Klinger did and Ben did, but other than that, we didn't have much of a response. Um, but it wasn't even just that. In every single stat, we're dominated. Uh, other than shots on goal, but our shots on goal were not very high quality. And face-off percentage, we lose this game by substantial margin, which, as you know, we're the best face-off team in the league. That should not happen. We give up 10 penalty minutes, and maybe the last one shouldn't have been a 4 minute, but other than, well, and the Pavelski one. So 4 of those are iffy, but either way, we're still way over them. And I didn't see a ton of calls that they missed on us either. And also, our penalty kill finally gives away and lets the floodgates open. St. Louis is 2 for 5. They out hit us 25-17, and that stat normally favors the home team just because of home scorekeeper advantage, which is dumb. And then block shots and giveaways, y'all know how I feel about those. Those are stupid anyway. So, yeah, you're right. We got demolished, and it looked like nobody really cared except for the young guys who got their chance to play in the NHL, and even they didn't even get a chance to play enough because they were benched the whole time.
I honestly didn't mind the play of Jamie Benn tonight. Jamie Benn looked fantastic. Just in general, this was his kind of game, and I mean we need to see more of this. He was actually trying some more creative offensive plays. They weren't always successful, but when it was there, it created some scoring opportunities for the Stars and some offensive pressure. But again, he's just not on the score sheet tonight.
Yeah, that's all good, but then he puts up a 29% face-off percentage.
Which is
like,
weird
that's awful.
For Jamie Benn.
That's not weird. That's actively not caring. Like, to go from a 60% a night kind of guy to 29%, you were not paying very much attention to that part of your game.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it the way you did it. I understand why you're saying it the way you did it. It's just that there's always guys that will have a bad game every once in a while. Jamie Benn is not going to win, 75% of the draws every single game, which he tends to do.
But he's only going to win 29. Like,
I know, and again, he can have a bad night. So the only frustrating thing about this is, well, there's multiple frustrating things about this, is the fact that we start with this 7-game win streak over the past 11 games, and we go from 7 games winning to 4 games losing. And this was exactly the thing that we talked about that couldn't happen after that first loss. After that first loss on the road, we were like, okay, that's fine, whatever. Throw it away. Now we need to turn it around and make sure that this doesn't turn into a losing streak. And now it's turned into a losing streak, and the momentum is completely against us right now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the way the Stars has been for the past 3.5 years now. They win a bunch of games in a row, they lose a bunch of games in a row, and they can't seem to stop that for whatever reason. So they need to get back on a win streak, and then they need to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this consistent? Because they haven't been able to do it for 3 years.
And the other thing about this Blues team is this is a Blues team that has been playing a lot better compared to the team that we saw a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, here's one thing we didn't even talk about. This is a Blues team that doesn't have 10 players. Right. 10 NHL players are not on their team, and we lost to them. Yeah, we don't have our number one scorer and 2 other guys who have not played well this season. Those guys don't matter. But they had 10 less players. They didn't have either of their 2 NHL goalies, and we scored 1 goal. And it wasn't even a goal scorer. It was a kid who's not supposed to be here. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
He has been doing really well in the AHL, though. He's had 12 points in the last 10 games, so that doesn't really surprise me of Damiani, but still.
I'm not saying it as a knock to Damiani. I'm saying it as a knock to all of our goal scorers on our team. Like, you're not going to score a goal against...
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, exactly.
You're not going to score a goal against a goalie who's not even good enough to play in the NHL, but this guy who's never played an NHL game is. Like, come on, dude. And, these past 4 games, it's been everybody. Like, Hintz has been out and just nobody stepped up. They've just been like, all right, we're good. We'll lose a couple of games till Hintz comes back. And now Hintz is on the IR, so we'll see how that works.
I mean,
he'll be available for the next game though.
I saw that,
they
but
just had to do that to be able to pull up Delandria. I would assume Delandria was the second call up.
but then why not just put Radulov on the IR? So I don't know, man.
I don't know.
We're like literally back to square one from the beginning of the season. Like Hintz goes out and we're back to square one. We can't.
We need to lose 3 more games.
Goals.
Lose 3 more games and we're back to square one.
No, you're destroying my point. we lose Hintz and suddenly we forget how to even pass the puck anymore. Like,
you're exactly right. We look like the
no
team before the win streak. We look like the team before the win streak just because one player's gone.
Well, and before that it was Robo. Robo was out for the beginning of the season and he wasn't playing, and that kind of screwed everything over. Robo comes back, all of a sudden we're doing really well. And then, now Hintz is out, and I mean, what do we got?
Pavelski's next.
Nothing. No, Pavelski is not next.
We're going to go on another 8-game win streak, and then Pavelski's going to go down. Rip.
And I don't know, this is just a random thought, but it always seems like to me that when Hintz is doing really well, something happens to him. Like he's out for a couple of games, or he happens to get sick, and then when he comes back, he's not the same player that he was before then. And I'm not necessarily talking about last year just because he was in and out, but the year previous, like he would go on like a tear for like 10, 15 games or whatever, and then he'd be hurt for like 3 or 4 or 5 games, and when he'd come back, he'd be not even close to the same. So whatever, but still, it's just rough to watch this Stars team right now, and we're starting to hear more of the fire bonus crowd again after this 4-game win streak. Still on that, Christian?
I mean, I never fully got off of it. But, yeah, I mean, I think I already alluded to it a little bit, but only playing Damiani and Peterson for how long? Peterson 7:34, Damiani 8:13 time on ice. And he's the only guy that scored. And he played the second least of anybody on the team. That's idiotic. There's no other way to put it. Like, if that's a guy who has the hot hand, put him in more. There's no reason to pinch him. It's just stupid.
So a lot of little topics. Go ahead.
After his goal, he had 5 more shifts the rest of the game.
That's ridiculous.
He touched the ice 5 times after he scored.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
He was on the ice more before he scored.
Well, and most of that was probably in the third period when it really didn't matter at that point when they got their third
it absolutely
goal.
is. 4 of those shifts are after the third Blues goal.
Right. So let's go ahead and get into just a quick little summary of the game here. It looked like that the St. Louis Blues had gotten the first goal of the game, but then it was ruled that it was kicked into the net. And then they reviewed it and said, oh, no, it actually wasn't kicked into the net. And then Bonus threw his red flag and said, no, he was actually offside. And then the goal was overturned. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I'm really glad it was offsides, because if it wasn't offsides and they called that a goal, I would have gone ballistic. Like, honestly, how is that not a kick? The dude's foot lifted up, went forwards towards the net, and the puck was propelled in by the foot. Like, if that's not a kick, then just get rid of the rule. Like, just say you're allowed to kick it in now, because it's not a rule right now. And that's all across the league. Like, if you watch hockey a lot, you'll know. Lots of pucks that are deflecting off of feet are being counted as goals. So, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, what do y'all think about that? Ends up
not mattering, but I was pissed.
Yeah. Do y'all think that should be taken away? The whole, you can't kick a puck in thing?
No, it should be a rule because they're wearing knife shoes. And when you wear knife shoes, you should not be allowed to kick things.
Right, exactly. That was my point. I'm glad.
But they don't enforce the rule. So now people are kicking things while they're wearing knife shoes around people who are on the ground. That's not a smart idea. It's going to take someone getting their leg or hand sliced open before they start enforcing the rule again. It's ridiculous.
Right. Right, and that's exactly what I was getting at. And a lot of people are like, just get rid of the rule because it's a stupid rule. Well, it's a stupid rule, but it's a stupid rule for a reason. It's there to protect the players. So,
If you remember, Sagan missed out on a whole year of hockey because of a skate
Yeah.
blade cutting his ankle,
right.
and now he forever wears Kevlar all over himself. Like, them things sharp,
Apparently,
bro.
it weighs him down.
Yeah, but people,
Okay, yeah,
those
let's
NHL players change skates between periods, and some even change their skates multiple times per period. That's why they have the pop-out blades now. So they are always razor sharp. Let's not kick things with those.
so
It's like running with scissors.
James already kind of jumped on a point I was going to get into tonight, but you know, maybe it's just because we've mentioned him a lot the past week and a half or 2 weeks. But Sagan looked really rough again tonight.
He
had
sucked.
he had the one good chance, and he looked awkward shooting it. He did.
But again, on the power play, our power play was moving well. Sagan touched the puck, and the puck was out of the
Offensive
zone.
yep,
immediately.
Yep.
Just like I said last game.
And it wasn't just once. It was like several times that I counted. It was at least 2, but I would bet you there was probably about 3 or 4. I'm not talking about just the power play, but throughout the game there was probably about 3 or 4 opportunities where he kind of got knocked off the puck a little bit, or he turned it over.
Yeah.
And one of the turnovers actually led to a really good offensive chance for the Blues as well.
He looks like Jordy Ben out there. I'd rather have Jordy. Let's trade for him. Sagan for Jordy Ben.
My favorite thing.
Huh?
Yeah, it'd be way better.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
My favorite thing Sagan did tonight was he skated into the zone, realized he couldn't beat the person who he was skating to, stopped at the top of the zone, tried to pass it across someone, and turned it over.
Yep, I saw that one.
But he tried something.
And then it was a 2-on-1
He tried.
the
He
other
did.
way.
He knew he wasn't. He knew he wasn't going to beat him, and he tried to pass it to someone else and turned it over.
It's just frustrating to watch this team right now because the only thing that gets this team going, it appears that all of this is Robe Hintz. And yet, for some, and I'm going to jump on a random tangent why is Tyler Sagan and Jamie Benn and Miro Heiskanen the only all-star selections that we can choose from? Why is Robe Hintz not a possibility?
I figured it out. I read the fine print. So those are for captain voting. So ever since the John Scott debacle, us fans are not mature enough to pick the All-Stars.
Well, they're kind of
Therefore, we can only pick the captain.
they're kind of right, honestly.
No, that's exactly the very next year after John Scott made it. They changed the rules.
Well, that was the greatest thing that ever happened to the All-Star game. It was just awesome.
The only All-Star game I've watched since I was 10.
Right, exactly. And we need to do something. We'll talk about the All-Star game and what the NHL should do with it later on another day. But anyways, just so that I thought that was the weirdest exchange I've ever seen. It's not a goal. Okay, it is a goal. Oh, never mind. It's not a goal for a different reason. I've never seen that before, so I thought that was odd. But anyway, the first period continues on. It goes through, and the Stars were completely obliterated physically. And the stat that was pointed out in the first intermission was the hits. And at that point, it was 13-4 in favor of the St. Louis Blues. And
good.
the Stars had no answer for it.
Nope. They were slow. They were weak. And they folded. The first period was actually their worst period.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And they didn't get scored on. Well, they did get scored on, but it didn't count.
So the second period rolls along. And the only reason why the first period was even scoreless was because of Jake Ottinger, but we'll mention him more towards the end. And then the second period goes on. It looks like it's going to be another defensive struggled game. And, lo and behold, the call-up, Mr. Riley Damiani, gets his first career NHL goal from John Klingberg and Jason Robertson. So Jason Robertson gets on the score sheet. Klingberg gets his 10th assist. Still no goals in a quarter of the season, and that cannot happen for John Klingberg. He needs to get a goal somehow.
Yeah.
But anyways, Riley gets his first career NHL goal, and it was a good one too. It's not like it bounced off his butt or it was like a fluke goal. It was a great shot, and it was great patience by Damiani.
And it was after a lot of sustained pressure by the Stars. It was really good shifts
feel
all
it.
around, and they cycled people in. You could tell it was coming. And yeah, the shot was crazy. Just cross crease pass, cookie jar, take it home. It was great. Loved that goal. Amazing shot.
And honestly, I got really excited for that goal because you could feel the pressure. You know, when the pressure built up, boom, there's a goal. And I'm like, okay, great. This is a start of a great game. This is going to start going well. And then literally Colton Parenko does his thing. He scores his third of the year from Tarasenko and Buchnevich, formerly of the New York Rangers. And it's tied 1-1 just over a minute later.
And just like James said, this is how we got scored on when we were in the beginning section of the season. So before the win streak, I'm saying we would score a goal and we would, or it would be the beginning of a period, we would immediately get scored on, something like that. After every event, we would get scored on somehow. And we keep doing it and continue that until now. And it is obviously a losing recipe. It was then and it is now.
So we go into the third, or into the second intermission, into the third period with a 1-1 tie. Jake Ottinger again looked very solid for the Stars going through the second period. He was probably the Stars' best player, other than I would argue Jamie Benn was probably our best player at that point. And in the third period, just right off the bat, that's how you start off a period if you're the road team. And Justin Falk gets his fifth of the year completely unassisted. And the St. Louis Blues would get the 2-1 lead, and they would never look back after that.
Yeah, from some really bad defending in the third period by the Stars. The first two periods were really tight by both teams. And in the second period, the Stars really got some pressure going. But the third period, the doors were just blown open. And it was just wide open hockey, stretch passes all over the place, not much defending by either team. And, of course, the Stars aren't talented enough offensively to actually bury one. So we just get demolished in a period like that.
And the most annoying thing to me was after that second goal, there was no pushback at all. Like, once they scored that goal, they were the Stars just decided they were done playing the night. Like, that was it.
Yeah. Or they just didn't I wouldn't say that because, they wanted to win the game, obviously. Any hockey player wants to win the game, but they just had no answer for the physical play of the St. Louis Blues.
But even like right after the goal was scored, like for the next 5 minutes, nothing happened on either side. Nothing.
Yeah. And if you're the St. Louis Blues, that's exactly what you want. You don't want anything happening because you want to establish that lead and say, no, this is our game. Get out of our zone. And then the other thing that I noticed about the third period was that the St. Louis Blues didn't turtle when they got their second goal. They didn't sit there and turtle. They continued to push in the opposite direction into the offensive zone. And
that was helpful
for
power plays, though.
Yeah, I was about to say, I kind of disagree with you because I still disagree with you because they were still dumping it in. But the only thing they did different from our dump in is that they would go in and hit our defenders. That was the only.
And they would
difference.
actually get it.
They wouldn't get it. They weren't getting it.
Sometimes
in the third period in that dump.
Yeah, but the hit would at least lead to something's happening, as opposed to how the Stars dump it in when they're playing turtle. They just dump it in and turn around.
Yeah,
dump it in, turn around, go for the line change, and it's almost like that. The short shifts are more important than actually making sure that you get some sustained pressure and actually protecting the lead. So, anyways, the Stars would continue on about halfway through the third period. Stars get called for a penalty. I forgot who it was. I can't remember now.
Faksa.
It was Faksa on a double high sticking minor. Let's talk about that for a second. Did y'all see any blood at all? Because I did not.
No.
I think it was in his mouth. I think it hit his literal teeth and knocked him in, and there was blood on his gums. But if there's blood, if that happened to our guy and there was some blood on his fingers, I would be pissed if it wasn't called. So makes sense to me. They reviewed it too, and they saw that stick definitely hit face. So, whoops. So, not much you can really say. He hit him in the face with a stick. It's a penalty.
Just a really bad time to take a penalty because if there was, like James said, there wasn't any pushback from the Stars at that point. But if there was going to be any sort of comeback, that kind of destroyed it because a little bit later, the Blues would get their third goal of the game from Ryan O'Reilly. again unassisted, and it was just an unfortunate goal.
Yeah.
It just
And
seemed to bounce the right way for the
It
St.
was
Louis
lucky.
Blues.
Yeah.
Oh, let's call
And
it.
this is
the first and the
something-
third goal were lucky. Sorry, James.
Yeah, that's something we didn't even talk about. Like the Blues goals weren't even that impressive. Like the first one is it bounced in front of the net. It was a bad rebound by Otter, but Heiskanen gets there and he gets his stick on the shot and stops the shot from going in, and it goes right to the other dude that's in front of the net and he sinks it on an empty net. And the second one that they had was a flutter puck that Otter probably should have had, but he missed it and it floated right in behind him. And the third one right now is another just bounced, got through a defender somehow, and went in off one of our defenders.
Yeah, that's because of scrappy physical hockey, I think. Also, the Justin Falk one, it wasn't just a flutter puck. It definitely got deflected by Caro. Otter's glove was right in the way, and then it got deflected right the other direction. So I'm going to back up Otter a little bit on that one. But yeah, you're right. All three of them were scrappy goals, not pretty. But, I mean, that's how you're going to score if you got 10 guys out of your lineup, and they played the game perfectly for what they had.
And then the final goal for the St. Louis Blues this evening would be another power play goal, really when it didn't matter. Some people,
who cares?
Pavelski was really upset, but, I mean, it was a penalty.
It wasn't.
He might have fallen down easy. He might have fallen down easy, I admit.
If
it
anything,
was
it was hooking. If they called tripping, it was garbage. It might have been hooking, maybe. It looked more like Pavelski got down and maybe slashing. But he kind of...
Yeah, they did call tripping.
His stick was on his hip.
Yeah.
There's no way to trip if the stick is that high. It's a dive.
Well, I wouldn't call it a dive. He hit it a lot better than...
dive.
You
think Ryan O'Reilly is that easy to knock over?
No, but what I'm thinking is I forgot what game it was this season. But there was one game this season where it was real obvious, and they even called it. It wasn't that obvious.
It was probably Robertson.
It might have been. Yeah, probably was. But anyway, they talked about these three guys at the beginning of the game: Tarasenko, Barbashev, and Buchnevich. And Tarasenko gets his 9th of the year from those two guys. It was a power play goal. It didn't really matter at that point. The Stars had no motivation at that point to push back. They had no desire to win this game, and it was already over at 3-1. So this just made the score look worse than it actually was. And then that ends the game for the Dallas Stars. Final score 4-1. And then your 3 stars of the game. Charlie Lindgren gets the first star of the game. He was okay, but I don't think he was asked to be spectacular. He made a couple of good stops, but he's the first star of the game. Riley Damiani gets the 2nd star for scoring his first career NHL goal. And then Justin Falk gets the 3rd star of tonight's game. Shots on goal, 34-28 overall. Face-off percentage, we lost pretty badly tonight, 56-44. Power play, we went 0 for 1. The St. Louis Blues went 2 for 5. Hits, 25-17. I still feel like that number should have been a lot larger, if you ask me. And then block shots, Stars in favor of 14-11. So just some stats to throw at y'all at the end of the game tonight. Yeah. Is there anything in particular that stood out to y'all on the stat sheet that we need to mention?
I know a lot of people are going to be mad about the penalty minutes being so lopsided, but, I mean, I think the refs called the game correctly. I mean,
they did.
Yeah, we had a lot more penalties than them. Honestly, we could have been called for more. I mean, the breakaway or the half breakaway that we didn't get any penalty on.
Yeah.
What? That should have been almost a penalty shot. So, yeah, we definitely... And I think that's a side effect of us not moving our feet and being more lazy, especially in the later periods. So, I think the penalty minutes are fine. The only other thing, I want to get to a bright side. Ottinger lit in 4 goals and still has an 8.57, so that's pretty good. We'll take that. I mean, he had a great night overall, too, though. The first period, we should have been down 2-0.
He was the reason why it was scoreless going into the first intermission. I mean, he was fantastic in the first period. And especially on that one Sundqvist tip, maybe 2 inches from his pad, that was a fantastic save. Mm-hmm. And just overall in the first period, he looked great.
Yeah, and like James said, we would like for him to get that second goal a lot. I mean, I think if he goes out there with a glove and a blocker instead of just the glove, he'll get it. And then the first goal, I feel like he was out way too far. Like, I didn't feel like he was in the right position.
Well,
So
it was kind of because he gave up that bad rebound, and he was expecting that shot, so he came out to meet that shot and not give up as much.
They tried to shoot,
and then and then it deflected right to the other.
Yeah, so kind of unlucky, kind of bad positioning, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a goalie, but it wasn't his best night. But the first period he was definitely outstanding, and he was good enough to win the game. Is what it comes down to.
Well, and I mean, when your team only gets you 1 goal for goal support, that doesn't help at all. And
10 penalty minutes.
Right. So 2 things that I kind of want to talk about real quick, and then we'll probably wrap it up here for tonight. The first thing I want to mention is, I'll go back to it, is this whole bonus situation. And I know we've talked about it so much and everything, but when you look at the last couple of games in particular, the one game I'm thinking in particular is Vegas. Okay, so Vegas gets down, they call a timeout, they switch their goaltender, and then they turn around and win the game. And it was only when the guy had let in 3 goals, right? At that point, he had only let in 3 or 4 goals. It wasn't like he had let in 7 or 8. But they made a quick decision because they saw how the momentum was turning into the game, and that ended up winning them the game. When you look at the game tonight, the double minor, for the first 3 minutes, the Stars were doing really well on the penalty kill. They were destroying the power play for the Blues, and it was doing fantastic. The Blues call a timeout, and literally 30 seconds later, what happens? They score the goal, and that literally puts it out of reach for the Stars to even come back, and that dampens their spirits. It doesn't allow them to have any kind of hope. And the reason I ask this is because, does making a rash decision like that, and I'm talking about firing Bonus and replacing him with someone else, is that really that rash of a decision at this point? Because we're not seeing the offense from this team that we need to see. And it's early. It's a little earlier in the season, so we're not halfway through yet, right? I don't think it's too late for Nil to go out and make a decision on this and say, hey, this team is not, performing to the expectations of me, of the owner Tom Ghilardi, of the fans. Is it really too late of a decision to say, hey, Bones, you can be an assistant again, or hey, you need to, hitchhike up the road, you're done? Is it really too late?
Being an assistant again is not.
Does all that make sense?
Yes, I get the point you're making. Being an assistant is not an option. That would not go over well for anybody.
I agree. But,
but no, I don't think it's too late. I think it would be a good thing. I think it would make the guys wake up and hopefully get rid of the culture of mediocrity that we've had for forever. But it's not going to happen. That's why I'm kind of done talking about it, because Jim Nill is not going to fire a coach in the middle of a season, especially when he said before the season started that he's going to give him a chance with a full season and a full roster or whatever. It's just not going to happen. That's not the way Jim Nill works as a GM. He's a very thoughtful guy. He doesn't do things quickly.
Stoic is a good word.
That's a great word, Ryan. That's that writer coming out in you. I can tell with all those articles. Getting lots of words. You read the Thorth?
The Thorth.
That was not a dig. I'm sorry. I could not say thesaurus. Okay.
But
what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Jim Nill's never going to do that, so I'm done talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing I kind of want to mention is Dennis Gurianov. Ardell, he's a very good, loyal listener.
I want to talk about
the
the number one, too. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, but Dennis Gurianov gives this team very little on offense yet again. 2 goals all season for 34. But I mean, we could talk not just about Dennis Gurianov, but Sagan's scoring greasy goals. John
Klingberg's not
Klingberg
scoring.
hasn't scored a goal all season.
Heiskanen hasn't scored in like 12 games.
Right, Heiskanen has not shown up on the score sheet.
Jamie Benn hasn't scored. Radulov hasn't scored.
Right, exactly, and that kind of that Denis Gurianov comment from me kind of leads into that first point that he talked about: no offense from their defensemen for a while.
Well, the defensemen they've been trash. I mean, Heiskanen was good in the beginning of the season, and for a little bit in the win streak, his defense was great, and it's still good, I think. But he has not shown any offensive production. He has not really been a threat. Like, normally you'll see him like fly into the zone and make something happen, at least move the defense around. He hasn't even been doing that recently. It's just been no legs, no stick handling. He's just been getting past the red line and dumping it in like everybody else on the Stars. And that's definitely not what we need.
And, one last thing before we close it up for tonight. I mean, this team is going through a bug. There's something going through the locker room. I can't remember who said what. I think it was probably Bonus. He said that more than half the players that played the last game, not this game, but the game before, were sick in some form or fashion. We're not feeling great. So I think that has been a huge factor as to why the Stars have been on a 4-game losing streak at this point too. It's not a good excuse because they're professionals. They should still.
No, it's a great excuse for the last 3 games, but for this game, the Blues don't want to hear it. They have 10 NHL players who are not playing. There are 10,
and there are teams that are going through COVID shutdowns right now
with just as many.
Yeah, so.
And they're not losing every single game.
Right.
So, especially against the Blues, that's not an excuse. You're losing to a team who is half AHL. Like, maybe you'll need to go back, join Hudobin.
And again, this is another thing that we've said multiple times. The good teams always find a way to win, regardless of who's in the lineup or not. And Jay Gottinger gave that opportunity for the Stars tonight, but he got no goal support from them whatsoever, other than the first goal. So, all right. Anything else, guys, that we need to talk about tonight? I think we kind of hit everything.
I just wanted to mention one last thing, is that we are going into our Central Division games now, and the Central Division is, and the Central Division is on fire right now. Everyone is like, they're going for it. I mean, the Predators are on the 5-game winning streak. The Avalanche are on a 4-game winning streak. The Blues are still winning even without players, and
4-0-2 in their last 6.
Yeah, and the Wild are sitting the top of the league.
They're 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, like if we don't wake up, this season's gone. Like
it's right now. You're right, because we can bury ourselves right now.
And it's turned so fast. It's so sad from a fan standpoint to be on the high of like a 7-game winning streak, and now you're here, and you're talking about the season's over if they don't wake up.
Yeah, and we're lucky we built a little bit of a cushion, but this was game 1 of 10.
The cushion's gone now.
Yeah, we got 2 games left in our above 500 cushion, which for the Central right now,
it's nothing.
It's not even close. So, I mean, you're going to have to get to 650. You're going to have to get to 650 to make the playoffs right now in the Central Division, which is crazy. We're so good.
Yeah, and he's talking about winning percentage.
Point
Chris is talking about
right now, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we got a little buffer left, but, yeah, we're running out of time because these next 9 games, all against Central Division, if you lose more than half of these, you're more than likely not going, and we're more than likely sellers going into the trade deadline.
And hopefully we don't have to talk like that, when it comes along. So,
but this is what it comes down to, really, is these 9 games determines if we're buyers or sellers. So we'll see.
All right. Next game will be on Friday in St. Louis at 7 p.m. on ESPN at Enterprise Center there. And again, it's not going to be an easy game. I mean, we get a couple of days off. Hopefully that allows some of the players to start feeling a little bit better and everything. But
well, that didn't help tonight, I guess.
Right, it really didn't, because we had 2 days off here today.
3, I thought.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was 2. I don't think it was 3, but still it was 2. And
Another 2-day break.
The schedule is only going to get worse from here. I mean, there's so many games crunched into December here, and it's with the Central Division teams. So
Friday is what starts our 5 games in 7 nights. So
yay!
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, hey, at least we're not doing this at 1 a.m, right?
Yeah, that's better.
Kind of a benefit,
that is
right?
That's the bright side.
Yeah. I mean, I was tired this week. I was tired.
Yeah.
I feel way better.
Yep, I do too. But anyways, let's see what these guys can do. Hopefully, this gets turned around in the next. No, not in the next week.
No, now.
Friday. Now.
We'll
now.
take it now.
It has to be now. So, once again, guys, thank you guys for listening to Starcastic Remarks along with Chris and James. I'm Ryan. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media accounts. You can follow Chris at ChrisCham2B as he very awkwardly waves. For those of you that are listening on the audio side, you can't see it. James, you can follow him at JamesTheBomb02. Follow me at StarsBoy12, and also follow the podcast on any kind of social media account. And we will be back with you guys on Friday night, and we have a special announcement hopefully coming up on Friday as well. And Chris and James know what that is, but y'all don't. And hopefully we'll get to share that on Friday. All right? Thank you guys again. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flippity flop.